So I've been having a hard time coming up with how my experience has been working at my site this semester, because what I realized it was that I'm not working at one specific site, so I can't quite have one specific experience. But to me, the variety of food justice sites and the fact that I don't have a single unified experience is actually a good thing, because this variety is kind of a model for how community building should work. Because food justice as an organization, both Food Justice Club as well as food justice efforts all around Greensboro, are more than just one group doing one hyper-specific thing. It's a whole variety of different groups trying to fulfill a bunch of different goals that all come together with the unified goal of food security. This is why some days I'm with Crop Caravan, transporting reclaimed vegetables and sorting through them. And then other days I'll be working with Out of the Garden, reviewing like a grant proposal to make sure that it matches like the word count. All of these different things help in different ways to further the goal of food security. And part of why I'm saying that this is a good model of how to community build is because it combines a bunch of different elements, and it is really good at balancing the short term and the long term. Because with food security, or food insecurity actually, you have the immediate threat of folks who, are a little short on cash right now and can't afford to get dinner tonight, or kids coming and they've got lunch for school through the school lunch program, but they don't have school for breakfast the next day or even dinner that night, right? So you have those immediate needs. And those immediate needs are part of where stuff like a food drop will come in, right? These are more distributive models of community food justice, but at the same time, they're very effective at making sure that people have food that night. However, that's not to say that that should be the end goal of food justice work, right? Because the goal, honestly, of any food bank should be to make themselves irrelevant. And this is where those long-term programs come into play. Like a community garden, or Out of the Garden has this project called a community kitchen, where let's say you wanted to start like a food-based business, but you don't have access to kitchen facilities because that's incredibly expensive to have a commercial kitchen. Well, in a rec center in Greensboro, we have a fully equipped kitchen for people who want to try and get ahead a little bit by making food goods for themselves, their community, and to sell to get out of food insecurity. And these long-term goals are the steps that you take to make sure that food insecurity in the community is not a thing. It's stuff like, putting the community in levers of power, making sure that they have control and say. That's why a lot of our community gardens and Out of the Garden's community kitchen is almost entirely run by the community. So in the same way that one day I'll be on campus selling vegetables and raising awareness, and the next day I'll be packaging reclaimed bread from a Panera Bread in a warehouse for a few hours, food security has to sort of do the same thing, where it focuses on the long term and the short term to make sure that people have food tonight, but they also will have access to their own food and not need food drops in the future. And this variety has taught me how to do a ton of different things. I know how to write a grant proposal now. I also know how to run a forklift now. I get to learn all sorts of different stuff, and I also learn how to think on a time scale that is, we need to do this by tomorrow, as well as a time scale that's like, in 5 years, I hope to do this. At the risk of sounding cheesy, it's the difference between planting a seed and planning for crops that'll grow in the future, while also watering and maintaining and nurturing the ones that you have growing today. Doing this reflection has actually helped me to understand what I've been doing for all this time, and has really made me excited to keep going forward with it. And that, in a somewhat long and rambly fashion, is my reflection of my time working on food justice sites this semester.